Gotta kick off the show here.
We're agreeing.
So cleaned up. All right, welcome everyone to the Mafia Cast. Thanks for tuning in, live or recorded, here on Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, and newly this week on Buffalo Rumblings Podcast as well. So we appreciate all the viewers. We got a couple checking in so far. Comments sections open for everyone. We're back from July 4th weekend. I'm your host, Mike. I'm here with Skeeds once again. Ronnie's off doing the family thing this week. So what's new? How's things?
Not bad. I mean, yeah, Papa Ron, he's off. He's starting a new job this week, working at the dam out there. So hopefully he'll be back next week. Like Mike said, families in town again. We all got lives outside of this. So Papa Ron's enjoying his, and I hope he's having a good time.
That's right. We're all patiently awaiting the season. We're like 67 days away from Bills kickoff or something like that.
God.
So,
hey, this is the last month without football until March. Yeah. So we can at least be happy about that. That's right. For sure.
That's right. So that keeps us going. So yeah, Casey, I think you might have had the most exciting weekend because I took an extra day off of work and I laid around the house and we went like grocery shopping once, and that's all I left the house for. So I was laying around and eating, but you had some exciting stuff happen.
Yeah, I my local municipal that I'm a member at, a golf course. We had our first annual member guest this week, and I actually came out on top and won.
Yeah, no big deal.
No big deal at all. It was. I've told a lot of people I might not have been the best golfer ever there, but I think this past weekend I definitely was the best golfer. Nobody was beating me.
Yeah, so that's a cool fact for those who don't know. Case is actually a pretty decent golfer. He's actually kind of getting me into it recently too. So
yeah, that's right. Father's Day.
Where that goes.
Me, you, my dad, and Uncle Pete all went out golfing, and Mike might have struggled a little bit, but like he said, he's just getting going. So we're looking to get him up, ramp him up a little bit more this year. And I did tell you Saturday, I might have had a little upset stomach in the morning before the tournament, but my inner Josh Allen was going to come out, and look what happened. So I'm not going to say I told you so, but I told you so.
All right, that's excellent news. That's actually like our biggest news for the weekend. As far as Bills news, not too much else going on. The lull we've been dragging on here, trying to keep it together. Like I said, waiting patiently. I've seen like a couple things, talking about the media blowing things out of proportion and that stuff. But other than that, the guys are working. Von Miller, he's still pretty confident. He's working hard, getting back at it. So,
do you think he'll be back for the start of the season? Do you think he'll be ready week 1?
He, I think we're gonna dive right into this right here. So, that actually was one of the things that I first thought of when we were talking about this title here. If we're excited or worried about something headed into this season, that is a concern of mine. And I mean, I don't know if that's the biggest concern, but I kind of am doubting that he's just going to be ready to go, right off the bat. It'd be nice to bring him in, the closer near the end of the season, maybe, and count on him there when he's fresh. But I don't know. Coming off an injury, I always tend to worry a little bit. So that's one thing I'm kind of worried about. What about you? Do you have any concern with that at all?
With Von, well, actually, to quote our good friend Papa Ron, who's chiming in,
there he is.
Von has dealt with this injury before, and
right.
he was back week 1, and that was when Ron, like, just to quote Ronnie the whole time, I mean, it was a complete ACL tear, and Von was still able to get back week 1. This wasn't even supposed to be an ACL tear. They didn't know
Right.
until they went in and started doing the surgery. They're like, well, while we're in here, we might as well sew that up too. So if it was just a partial tear and he didn't even know it, then I think he could be.
How bad could it be then?
Right? Yeah, I mean, I think he could be back ready week 1. I wouldn't be shocked about it at all. Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to it because one of the things I'm most worried about is our defensive line being the same as it has been the last few years. Yeah. I understand we brought in Leonard Floyd and we retained Jordan Phillips, Daquan Jones, Tim Settle. We extended Ed Oliver. Groot's going to be in his 3rd season with us. Epinesa and Basham, we're looking for them to take a step forward, but we're relying on guys that we've seen underperform before. I mean, not necessarily Groot. He's performed well. I mean, he's dealt with some injuries, nothing extreme, but the nagging 1, 2, 3 game stretches where it does hurt us big time to have him.
You'd hate to throw it all on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I'd hate to throw it all on him, and part of the reason why we brought Von in is so for Groot to learn from him on the field and be effective off of each other, to be able to play off of each other. And so I'm just worried that, we're coming back with the same guys, we're not necessarily the same scheme. We don't really know what the scheme is going to look like under Sean McDermott alone. But I'm just worried it doesn't take that step forward as a whole. I'm sure Groot is going to get to that 10 sack mark. If I was a betting man, I'd bet Von gets there as well. Leonard Floyd, throwing 5, 6, 7 sacks, But does everybody else really step up? Does Ed Oliver finally prove that he was worth that contract? That's the biggest question.
Right. And you mentioned McDermott, get more involved in this defense too, and lacking a couple players, linebacker too. So it's not only going to look different, the scheme is going to be slightly different, or maybe not slightly, but we want to, hope that, being different isn't a bad thing. It's not something we have to adjust to. Hopefully, we could hit the ground running with a new look, and not have to, lag behind and play sort of catch up, on the defensive side of the ball.
Even not necessarily being an entirely new look, still running that 4-2-5, but just being a little bit more aggressive. I feel like that's something that Bills Mafia has been clamoring for a while now. Is we've been send 4, sit back. Sit back with 7, and just make you try to pick us apart. And that's the bend don't break mentality, because we give up yards, but we don't give up many points. Because when it gets to that red zone, we're really able to shrink that field and close those gaps that the receivers are trying to find. But the pressure is there, but pressures still aren't the same as sacks. I don't care what anybody says. We brought Von Miller in to finish football games like he did against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season last year. He finished that by getting that sack that ultimately was a sack that led to the pick 6. Or the interception by Teron Johnson. So right. I think it's going to look similar, player-wise, but I think schematically it's going to be a little bit more of an aggressive defense. At least that's my hope.
Right. Hope.
Yeah, hope.
Is right. So is this safe to say that, so we're talking about, what we're most excited or worried about going into this season? I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand, because I keep saying this, there's a lot of unknown things like we've just mentioned, and then the Jets, with Aaron Rodgers and things like that, them and the Dolphins, adding players and that sort of thing too. So I feel like what I'm excited about is also what I might be worried about. So it's just kind of this unknown thing that's got me kind of going crazy. Don't know what to think right now.
Yeah, we were all excited for. Remember the AFC West last year? 4 teams are going to make it out of the AFC West into the playoffs. The Chiefs are still going to win the division, but it'll be tighter, and it's going to be a lot better. Russell Wilson's coming in at quarterback. Derek Carr is going to turn right around with Devontae Adams, and the Chargers were going to, explode with Justin Herbert under the helm for another year. And look what happened.
Yeah. You don't know until they hit the field.
No. So my biggest worry for this year from not the Bills is the Dolphins' acquisition of Vic Fangio over Jalen Ramsey, because you can have as great a player as all you want. If they're not put in the right position, they're not going to succeed. So, but in Vic Fangio is proven in this league. So that's my biggest concern is him. Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we saw what Aaron Rodgers did against us last year. You know, the Packers were in that game because of the run game. It wasn't because of the pass game. Now I know he's going to say, well, I didn't have my receivers. Well, I mean, you said that and you still brought half of them over to New Jersey. You know, I mean, the receivers they had there already were better than what you brought over, and Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Garrett Wilson's going to be an absolute stud. I mean, Corey Davis is Corey Davis. I'm shocked they got rid of Elijah Moore. But I'm not a huge believer in it yet. And I think it's because of the whole Russell Wilson thing last year. You know, everything, it was all blown. I mean, the hype, there was so much hype. We all knew it couldn't live up to it, but we didn't think it would like burn that tragically.
Yeah,
as bad as it was. And so I don't know. I don't believe in the Jets yet. And I will see week 1. I mean, I'm thrilled. That's the game I'm most excited about, is being able to play the Jets week 1.
Right.
Because it's a litmus test for both teams. How have the Bills changed and incorporated Kincaid and that defense from McDermott compared to what are the Jets now? You know, are they going to be as good as we all think? Because if they are, they will beat the Bills. But if they're not, the Bills are going to stomp them.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Kincaid. Kincaid might be the most exciting thing right now, I think. You know, the potential there. So that's another thing to get excited about leading into this season. Yeah,
I mean, Josh Allen finally has a first-round draft pick to throw the football to. You know,
so they went out and got a weapon. So that's another thing to get excited about here.
Exactly. Who's to say he's not the number 2? You know, everybody's been clamoring for D-Hop and all these guys to go get him. Who's to say he's not just the number 2 receiver in a tight end's body, and Gabe goes back to fitting perfectly into his number 3 wide receiver slot. You know,
maybe.
Not in the slot, obviously, but, you know, roster-wise.
Right. Are we getting into ahead of ourselves? Do we want to get into that right now?
I don't know. I think that's a good segue.
Yeah, I think it is.
That room.
Because that's up next on the dock here. We're going to discuss about the Bills wide receiver room going into this year. You know, we're kind of trying to scope out, you know, who's going to be there active on game day. Casey, what are you thinking?
So I think they're going to end up keeping 6, just kind of like they usually do. And it's going to be Diggs, Davis, Shakir, Justin Shorter, Deontay Hardy, and Trenton Sherfield. That's the 6. Everybody's saying that one of those guys has to get cut. But the Bills have always kept 6. The last couple of years, we've been clamoring for them to keep 7. And we were begging for Isaiah Hodgins to be that 7th. Yeah. But they stuck to their guns and they kept the extra linebacker instead of the wide receiver. Right. Up until last year when they did keep the 7th, and Isaiah still wasn't it.
Right.
But that 7th was purely was like Jake Kumro just running special teams.
Right.
Now, I know we have Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy, who, you know, Sherfield's a great gunner and Hardy's a great returner. But I don't think either of them are going to be stuck to solely like special teams. You know, I think they are going to have roles in the offense. So I think that's going to be the 6. And I'm very. It's a lot faster. It's a faster group than what we're used to in Buffalo. So I'm curious to see what that's going to do for Josh in the short passing game.
Yeah. So you mentioned like keeping 7. So does like if you were keeping 7, is Hines like kind of in that 7th spot there?
Yeah, I mean
special teams, you know, kind of thing, or
I think it's going to be Hines and Hardy fighting for the special, like for the return job, and I truly think that it is the Bills are going to keep 4 active running backs, just like they had the last few years, and for that sole special teams reason with Nyheim Hines. I know he's not a gunner like Tywan Jones is, but Tywan Jones was still just purely a special teams player. And if that's what Nyheim Hines is, and then he's in there to run the jet sweeps, you know, and the little like just little plays like that, the trick plays, then I'd love it. I'm fine with it. You know, keep Damian Harris in there for a change of pace with James Cook and Latavius is in there. Just you need that yard. He's going to get you that yard. You know, he's the reassurance. So that's my take on it.
So I think you nailed it with the 6, and it was the exact same 6 I was thinking of. You know, obviously you got our 3, Diggs, Davis, and Shakir, but with those 3 behind them, Hardy, Shorter, and Sherfield, I feel like, you know, Sherfield could be your solid 4, and then you got Hardy, who's your small fast guy, and you got Shorter, who's taller, your bigger target. So
Also fast guy.
yeah. So I like that, you know, behind our first 3, we kind of have some variety there, you know, a big target, you know, small target, solid 4th in Sherfield. So I think you nailed it with those 6 right there.
So well, here we go with Pop Ron disputing us. Maybe if he was on the show, he could plead it. He could plead a case, but since he's dipping out on us, I don't think so.
Man, it's 3 backs.
No way.
It's
not
tough.
a chance.
I know.
Because we all know it will be Latavius out.
Right.
But he'll be picked up quick, insanely quick.
Yeah.
You know, we saw how fast the Bills picked him up this year. You know, I'm sure it would happen again.
It'd be tough to see him go because we all really love to see him play in a Bills uniform this year.
Hey, it's as close to home as he's going to get.
Come on, Ron. Let us dream a little bit longer.
Exactly. So to Christy's point, Knox sounded excited about Kincaid, looking like
yes,
and I agree. I mean, you can't, for starters, you can't be sour when someone is drafted and they play the same positions.
Not
a
good look.
Oh yeah, you can't do that. I mean, we all know we've heard Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I don't have to train him. You know, it's not my job to get him ready. But it's awesome to hear that teammate experience, share that happiness and be like, all right, you know, he's a good player. I'm a good player. Let's make each other better. Let's make the team better. The better the team is, the more money we make. I mean, I understand Knox already got paid, but hey, their contracts can be cut at any time. You're always looking for that, being prepared for that next contract in the NFL.
Yeah. But bring on all that positive energy. I'm all about it.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, we could all use a little more of that.
So that kind of leads us into our next one.
Yes, it kind of does.
If Kincaid truly turns out to be what he could be and what we all expect him and hope him to be, do you think? I mean, and Knox has not a down year. I mean, he doesn't get 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, you know, on 22 catches. Say Knox has 40 yards, 40 catches, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, and Kincaid has 60 for 708.
Right.
And the front office is sitting there thinking, well, we saw what the Eagles did with, Zach Ertz. We saw what they did with Zach Ertz. We saw what they did with Tony Gonzalez. You know, we saw Jeremy Shockey. These great tight ends all get moved. And I know some of them were later in the career, but I mean, Knox isn't necessarily a spring chicken anymore either. You know, he's in his 6th year now. So with that contract climbing and with the upcoming contracts of, Davis and Elam's, I mean, I know he's only year 2, but eventually he's going to want a contract, and having to pay these guys. I mean, does this make Knox maybe tradable? Do they answer the phone and seriously listen, not just answer to answer?
I think they'd entertain ideas. Man, this I mean, this year might say a lot. You know, if the duo works out great, man, that's tough to say there. Love me some Dawson Knox. Always been a big fan. Kincaid explodes. Does that, you were saying, it could take away from Knox? Is that going to make him less likely to get a bigger contract? Does that keep him at bay? Is that a sort of thing? I know, you got to play the numbers sometimes. We have to get Sarah more involved for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of thing. But man, if he explodes, is Knox tradable? I mean, what would you even get for Knox?
So he was a third-round pick.
Yeah,
and he led the league in touchdowns for a tight end 2 years ago. Last year, going through the injuries and the passing of his brother, he still had 6 You know, everybody says that Knox had a bad year last year. No, he didn't. When he was there, like he had a great year. He started off slow, but it's because Diggs and Davis were blowing everybody for 150 yards, you know, and 3 touchdowns every game. You couldn't help it that Allen had every deep shot given to him. Yeah. So he started off slow. He still ended up with 500-600 yards, 6 touchdowns, 40 some odd catches. Came in clutch many times, scored the game-winning touchdown against the Chiefs. I just think since Kincaid was drafted, I keep running back to the Eagles and how they loved Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz. I mean, loved him. And the Bills were trying to trade for Zach Ertz while having Dawson Knox. Yeah. So they have been trying to go for this for a while. But even the Eagles, I mean, they ran that 2 tight end set for a while, a couple of years, 3 years. And they still went away from it. So to me, it tells me that it's not sustainable for an extended period of time. You can get it for a couple of years, kind of like that Rex Ryan with the Jets and that
eventually they're going to catch
that 46 defense. Yeah, it's gonna. I feel like just like everything, they will catch on, and I'm afraid that that's just like that. It may have a lifespan.
Yeah. So something I can't help but think of with this question is Quentin Morris, right?
Yeah,
be our 3rd tight end.
Yep.
I mean, you're not going to just bump him out. You need a good blocking tight end, right? So I mean, kind of reinforces the point a little bit.
And we know, I mean, Dawson's not a great blocker. He's not, he doesn't get pancaked every time. He doesn't get put on his butt, but he's also not doing that as others. I mean, like he's not doing that to defensive ends and defensive tackles. I mean, he's a good chipper. And we all know Dalton Kincaid isn't an inline tight end. He plays from a 2-point stance. He plays slot a lot. He's not a blocker. Quentin Morris, is his blocking good enough to warrant him being on the 53-man roster? That's going to be a really, really interesting point. I never thought about that. Just the blocking aspect of it.
So you got to keep one there.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't even think of that at first. But.
That's a question. I mean, do you keep 3 tight ends? Because if so, where do you cut other places? Because if we're keeping 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, there's 10. We have 2 active quarterbacks. 5 running backs technically because of Gilliam. So we're already at 12 just on the offensive side of the ball, not even counting offensive line.
Where do you see us like? That's a little off topic, but like when you brought this question forward, that's when I really started counting players and really thinking about it. Not that this has, it's not really who makes the roster this year, but just kind of seeing who we got on the team. 53 players, and it kind of makes me think. What other positions are like? I could see us making all these things happen, but there's like, is there certain positions that are like expendable where we don't have to have as many people at that position? Like I'm thinking like offensive line. I mean, I know we're really worried about offensive line, but is there like guards that could play center? I mean, and just having guys that can just, I don't know what I mean. Just kind of be thin there at the line position, so we could have more depth, in other areas. Try
to figure out where we can cut the corners to keep that. I mean, so offensive line, who's our projected starting 5 right now? I mean, it's Deion Dawkins. I'm going to give it Connor McGovern and Mitch Morris, and I'm still going to give Ryan Bates the starting job until Osiris earns it and takes it from him, and then we have Spencer Brown. So there's our starting 5. So we have Osiris Torrance, obviously.
Right.
We have who's the
Brandon Shell?
We have Brandon Shell. We have Nick Broker. We have
who was new though. He was like later in the draft.
Yeah, later in the draft, but apparently a great steal. We have David Andrews, who we signed from the Rams, who people were trying to argue could be a starter. I don't think he's in the starting. Yes, David Edwards. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't think he's in the position to start. If he wins a job, cool. If he somehow wins that job over Ryan Bates and Osiris Torrance and Connor McGovern, then he's deservedly so, because those guys, two of those guys were paid handsomely, within the last 2 years, and the third was drafted in the second round. So if you can beat them out, then good on you, man. But I think with him and there's still one more offensive lineman that I just can't remember. Ike Botker. I'm sorry, Ike Botker.
Yes,
He can play all three interior positions.
That's what I mean. So
if
like
we can get him
yeah,
and Ryan Bates, who can also play all three interior positions, then I mean I think that might be a case to where you can maybe cut an extra guy and not have and only have Brandon Shell as a swing tackle instead of the David Quessenberry, having both of them active. You can cut one, or just not have them be a game day active.
Right. Now with Von being, well, I don't know if you want to call him questionable, but would it be worth maybe, sitting him out a while just to get that depth for a couple of games and see what we can do with it?
Well, that's what a lot of people are projecting, is that he starts on the PUP list, which is first 4 weeks out.
Yeah.
And you can come back, and it also doesn't hurt. Like, it doesn't take up a spot, a roster spot.
Right.
So is that a case? I mean, I think it's a possibility. I don't think it'll happen, because even if he's not ready week 1, I don't think he's not going to be ready by week 4. I definitely think he'll be back within those 4 weeks. And I understand. I mean, this regime protects the players from themselves. So we saw how long it took for Tre'Davious White to get back from the same injury last year, happening almost at the exact same time of the season. The difference is the player, to me. Everybody comes back and differently from injuries. Everybody's mind and body reacts differently. Maybe Tre'Davious White wasn't ready physically or mentally to go back out like exactly a year or 11 months after tearing his knee on Thanksgiving in front of literally the entire country.
Yeah.
That takes a toll on you mentally just as much as it does physically. Now, Von, I mean, again, he's gone through this before. He understands the process to get back, to get healthy and play well off of it. So I don't know.
I know, like, you give these guys these deadlines and it like puts pressure on, but like, no one really knows their body like they do. So
exactly. I mean, it's kind of, can't believe I'm going to say this, it's kind of like the Stephon Diggs thing right now, and everybody in the media, someone not here, wants an answer. And we don't need, I mean, would it be nice to have an answer? Yeah. So everybody would shut up and stop talking about it.
It's not the most important thing.
It's not the most important thing, and it's not necessary. We don't deserve an, like, it's not like we are required to be given an answer. It's not, it's if it was handled in-house, that makes me personally, I'm like, cool. Now we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. It's
like, all right, everything's handled. Do you air your dirty laundry on Facebook? Because I don't. They just happen to where they don't have a choice. Everything is put out in the public for them.
I was just going to say, the world we live in, everything's out there, so you feel like you're entitled to all the information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and again, I would love an answer to all this and exactly what happened in that meeting the day before, that day he left. But if we don't get it, Papa Ron says I still misunderstand. Yeah, well, if he was here to defend himself, maybe I would be able to understand.
Did you have a question for Papa Ron this week? I feel like he's here in the comments. You could write it out for him.
I did not. Yeah, Papa Ron, why do you want an answer so bad?
We need something he can school us on this week.
Next week. We'll be back for another lesson with Papa Ron next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully. He's got a busy life. He's a busy guy.
I know. That's good, though. Busy's good.
Absolutely.
Good. Oh, man. We done flew through all this.
I was going to say, we flew through this.
Well, so we got only 2/3 of the normal talking this week.
Yes. So what you said, like, what are you most excited about for this season? I mean, you said what you were worried about, but what are you most excited about into the season? Like what are you like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this happen?
So let's go back. Excited. Well, it's got to be the Kincaid thing. I mean, that's like a huge ad there, obviously. Everyone knows that. But like the big thing going into the draft, I was looking at linebacker, really concerned about linebackers. I don't know, maybe I'm a little excited to see what Dorian Williams can do. We got, the new receivers out there. It's like take your pick. There's all these additions. Um, I think I'm most excited, I think, to just go into that first game this year and
Oh my,
actually seeing some football.
oh my gosh, I
Like,
know.
man, we just been waiting so long enough. But I don't know, like our guys like Shakir, Elam, second year guys. I want to see them guys step up and have some big years. Have a
So
big year coming up.
Shakir,
So
that's a good one. So what do
just
you
more
think
snaps.
is that all
And
you think it's going to take for Shakir is more snaps, or
I don't
do you
think it's
think
all
that
it's going to.
he's going to need like a designated role in the offense?
No, I think like more snaps is just going to be the deciding factor, I guess. You give him more snaps, you give more targets, and see what he does with it. And right now where he sits, he's kind of, I mean, behind Diggs and Davis, obviously. Um, move these guys around a little bit and just see what sticks. I know Ron likes talking about moving Diggs to the inside of the slot once in a while, and I'm like, I'm all for it. Why the heck not? I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
Shakir can make plays on the outside too.
yeah, we saw him be able to last
Yeah.
year. We
So.
saw his ability to be one-on-one with a receiver or two or three and go up and get the football. And he's he's not Justin Shorter, 6'5", 225.
Right.
He's 6 foot, 200. To me, it's like his heart and like how much like you can just tell he loves football. He is out there he doesn't care what happens to him.
Man.
Just make the play. He just wants to make the play. And I feel like that's what showed in that Bengals game last year. He was the only one on offense to score a touchdown. The only person on the team to score a touchdown, I should say. But he was wide open on that pass. And I think it was because he was like, when you're young and dumb, you don't think about it. You're just reacting. You're going out there, well, I don't care. I don't care what's going to happen. I'm just going to try my best until the end. And what happens, happens, and that's kind of what it seemed like. Like he was, all right, we might be down 25, but I don't care. He's like, we got to start somewhere. We're going to score here. And then we're going to score again. We're going to score again. That's just like, that's the kind of like watching it. That's what it looks like with his play, that he's just trying he's always trying. And I think he's right in the mix being given that opportunity to win the 3 spot this year with Hardy and Sherfield. They didn't bring anybody big in, and they didn't bring in the D-Hop. So there's targets to be had. And if he earns it, then I could not be more excited.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up again too, because I was saying like excited, worried, how they kind of blend together a little bit. But that's one thing that I could kind of get excited about, and I feel like I don't have to worry too much about it, because there is the depth there. If he flunks horribly, but I don't see that happen.
Yeah, we all saw all the names that the fellow GMs called Rain and Bean for being able to get Shakir in the 5th round 2 years ago. I remember there was a story that he had to put his phone on mute because he answered it and people were bleeping him. And just for the draft pick, and they couldn't believe it. And I at the time I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to be a 3rd round pick, third round pick, and here he goes, just falling. I understand he didn't do well at the underwear show out in Indianapolis, but you also, I'm big on the eye test. What can you show me on a football field between those two white lines? That's what I want to see. Diggs isn't the fastest player in the world, but we see him on a football field be able to pull away from cornerbacks. Josh Allen, we know he's not running a 4.2. But that 70-yard run or whatever it was against the Dolphins in the playoffs last year, no one was catching him. The only reason why he was caught is because there was people in his way, and he got the run yet, like the speed yips. He just ran lost control. He was moving so fast.
Yeah,
but just show me what's between the numbers, and it just seems like Shakir has it. Like he has the football mind. He's young, and like you said, I think he just needs the snaps.
Yeah. So you mentioned like the draft pick, how Bean was sort of the villain, maybe, so to speak. So now I feel like, the Bills, we're not really like the villain, like maybe Joey B or Mahomes, they can be looked at sort of that way. But like Buffalo, right? City of good neighbors or whatever, blue collar guys, the good old boys or whatever. But do you want to see like more of that? Do you want to like be the villains? Do we need that sort of rap, or do we just kind of, I don't know, would that sort of light a fire? Do we got to get more competitive like that, to bring us further to the big game?
See, I feel like
that role.
I feel like the Bengals. So I don't necessarily think it's the villains, like per se. I think it's like the Bengals. I feel like are the cool kids. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Like because Joe Burrow, I mean, he's so just so cool.
Yeah.
Just, just the swagger about him. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They have this unstoppable offense, and it seems like they are Joe Cool. Like they're just a kick back, relax. So for me, that's what I think when I hear like the villain or or that something like that.
I'm more thinking like Belichick, the Patriots freaking hated that. I feel like I want people to just hate us so much, but
I think the Dolphins do because Josh Allen's their daddy.
Yeah.
I can't say I blame him. Tom Brady was our daddy my entire life until he freaking went to the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
I admitted it. The Dolphins fans are just too stupid to admit it, and because they can't read numbers or something. They think 7-2 is a good thing.
Oh man. I knew I could get you going a little.
The same reason why you have to do the intro when Bob Moran isn't here is the same thing that I want for the Bills. I do not want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Which is I think why I'm kind of enjoying this whole Diggs thing because it's blown out of proportion. To me, this is nothing until he's like, I want out of Buffalo like he did in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about it at all. And if Josh Allen was a lot more secretive than what he has been, then I would be worried about it even more, but I'm not. So for let everybody just be like, oh my God, they're imploding. They're nothing anymore. They had their time to shine, their windows closed, blah, 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 blah. Okay, good.
But then you got guys like me that just try to hype them up every chance like that.
Exactly. But and I'm more so, hey, we'll see you in January.
Right.
Because we will be there in January. Whether it's more likely than not winning the AFC East, but if it's wild card, we'll see it. We'll see you in January. That's all I care about at this point. It's just make it through the regular season healthy. That's the only thing important at this point because we all know that's why the Bills
that would almost be bigger than getting a game further.
Absolutely,
you're heading into next year.
Yep, just get healthy. Just get out. Be as healthy as you can going into the playoffs, and nothing else matters.
Yeah,
it's always get healthy at the right time.
That brings up another point. Something I just read before we got on that I don't know. Someone was speculating. I forget where I read it that Bills might be looking at linebacker next year in the draft, maybe to fill the Tremaine Edmonds spot. So you got me thinking. Holding off, stay healthy this year, take it easy.
I think that. So that was my opinion when we did draft Dorian Williams. Was we now have Terrell Bernard in their third round pick. We had Terrell Dodson in their late round pick, been on the team for a bunch of years, special teams. Ben Tremaine's number one backup. When Tremaine went down, Terrell went in. And we still have A.J. Klein in there who, hey, in his tenure with the Bills, he's won Defensive Player of the Week. He's had 3.5 sacks in a game. So is he a flash in the pan? Maybe. But sometimes your team needs that. You just need that spark. And
true that.
So if all these guys go out in the deep and it's just not happening, not cutting it, I think that I wouldn't be surprised that's our first round pick next year. I wouldn't hate it because that's been my thought process this year. Bring in all these guys that have been overlooked, and just let them all give them all a fair chance, a square shake. Just let them go. And if it doesn't work out this year, then the rest of the defense around them is going to be okay to buoy it. It's that one linebacker spot is not going to entirely sink this offense. This defense, especially with Matt Milano.
Oh yeah.
So we want to go ahead this year and run it out like that and use our first round pick on the number 1 or 2 linebacker in the draft. Be my guest. I would love it.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Sounds good to me.
So my next question to you is, with salary cap, pertaining to salary cap, Gabe Davis, what do you think is going on with him after this year? Because this is his last year. This is a contract year for Gabe Davis. So do you think he's going to be given the opportunity? Do you think do you think he's been offered a contract extension yet? Do you think that there's been talks and the Bills have offered him something? And B, do you think if it's a middle of the road contract, does he stay to try to win the ring if we don't this year? Or does he go with the money?
He so I know everyone wants him to get paid. And I'd like to see him stay as well. But now, as far as the receiver position, I feel like we've added quite a bit of depth that, if we had to, we could send him off, get a trade pick or whatever, and maybe be all right. But I really, it's tough. You want to see him do great and have the breakout season and get paid, and stay. But like you said, with the cap, it's kind of tough to have all that happen. And if he has that sort of breakout year that, some people might be thinking, if you're almost threatening for like the number one receiver spot, and I don't know, maybe you are expendable at that point. And you need to go elsewhere.
Is it worth it? I mean, if he is just on the same path as, like, to have the same year stat wise as he did last year, do you think Bean considers trading him? If Shakir kind of steps up and and Shorter steps up, he really starts to amaze in camp, just like Gabe Davis did his rookie year. Do you think maybe they're like, hey, get something while we can for Davis?
Yeah. He's sort of, he's not our number one receiver, and he's kind of right there, borderline right now. So yeah, he could be the guy out next year. But something cool that I just learned is that he just pretty much tripled his salary, I think, with the what is it, the PPE, the player performance elevator.
Mm-hmm.
So however that works, I'm just learning about it, so I don't know much about it, but pretty much triple his salary. And as far as you outperform your pick, your draft pick, and then they hook you up or whatever. So that kind of helps out a little bit. And you asked though about, has there been talk about it? I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Because I mean, if we're talking about it, they've probably talked about it a while ago.
Yeah, but I mean, this year Groot, they're already going to start talking about Groot because it's going to be year 3. They're because at the end of this year they have to decide whether to pick up his 5th-year option, and then next year is going to be the year to extend him. So that way you have 2 years until it actually kicks in. So it's just like one of those, like, how far can Brandon Bean kick that can? I mean, like, does he have steel toe boots on and can just go for days? Because this is getting to be one hell of a credit card bill.
He might give Tyler Bass a run for his money, kicking the can.
Oh yeah, he just might, the way he's been able to do that. Absolutely, are you kidding me?
It is pretty impressive, the team that they've built over, the past several years.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the cap purgatory we were in this year, and we were like, oh, we're not doing anything. We'll be lucky to bring back Edmonds or Poyer. Here we are. We brought in all this talent on the offensive and defensive side of the ball and retained all but one player.
Yeah.
And anybody we didn't retain still hasn't signed, so I'm not all that worried about it.
So speaking of that, though, can you comfortably say we're done with off-season moves?
Meaningful off-season moves, yeah.
Yeah,
I do. I think Cam Dantzler was the last one to be brought in for an actual position battle. And I think that position battle is for, the last corner spot between he and Cam Lewis.
Yeah.
And he's going to be playing that Xavier Rhodes spot.
So it's kind of been winding right on down. So
yeah,
we probably lose sight of these big moves that maybe we think we're gonna make. But man, they do surprise me sometimes.
Oh man. Well, hey, Leonard Floyd, that was a name none of us
True.
had brought up.
True.
You know, and all of a sudden he gets 1 year, $9 million.
Yeah. And
So
that wasn't too long ago.
no. I mean, are we gonna get Zeke? No. Are we gonna get
Do we want Zeke? No.
no? Are we gonna get D Hop? No, I don't think so. I never really thought we were truly in the
Dalvin.
running.
Just not necessary.
I don't think we get Dalvin. I don't think we want to pay. We're never going to pay that much for running back. If we were, we would have paid Devin Singletary. Not to say that Devin Singletary is as good as Dalvin Cook, but if we were going to pay running back, we already know what we're going to have with Devin Singletary going into this year. And every single year he's played, he's gotten better and better and better. In the beginning of his career, he couldn't catch a football. By the end of last year, I mean, when we did run the halfback screens, they went to him. You know, I think he caught 25, 30 balls last year. So I think it's too much of a running back by committee to run with a stud running back like that. Right. You know, I think his younger brother James and Damian Harris, and then the handcuffs with Latavius and Hines that's exactly what we need for our running back group.
Yeah. All right. Well, I agree with that. And I don't know. We're about 46 minutes through. We kind of touched on all the topics here. We brought up some new news here. I mentioned it briefly when we started the show. Now featured, Mafia Cast is now featured on Buffalo Rumblings podcast as well. So you can find us there, listen to the show, play it back, check out the latest. So there's that. Everyone tunes in every week. We appreciate you guys. What do we got? Sunday, we got another show coming up. We got a special show this Sunday.
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, we have a special Sunday episode, and Papa Ron will be able to join us. And we are going to be joined with special guest LaShawn Warlock. And Bills Mafia, you all know who he is. I mean, how generous he is with everything he does, buying people and buying tickets, flying people out to games out of his own pocket. Just he doesn't care. He doesn't do it for anything in return, just out of the kindness of his heart, because he wants to be surrounded by his family, the Bills Mafia. So we can't wait. Yeah. Can't wait to talk to him on Sunday and see how he got started, where he is now, and what his plans are for the future.
Yeah, you know, we love doing this here on the Mafia Cast, highlighting the different members of the Bills Mafia and how they're important to the community. So with that being said, tune in Sunday, catch up with Warlock and AJ's analysis coming up here on Buffalo Rumblings at 8:30. So stay tuned in for that. And until next time, go Bills.
Go Bills.